Jiu-jitsu is destroying your body. You must pay a fee every time you step onto the mats. No, I'm not talking about your gym membership fees, but the cost to your body. You have two options: either pay with the damage to your body or invest your time and energy in implementing strategies on and off the mats. When followed diligently, these strategies will reduce and even reverse the damage jiu-jitsu does to your body. There are key areas to focus on, each with three principal elements. These areas are on the mats and off the mats. We're going to tackle on the mats first. There are three elements to address in this area. They are safety principles, training mentality, and intensity, adjusting your jiu-jitsu game. Some positions in jiu-jitsu carry a greater risk than others. Some moves have too high of a risk versus reward and should only be reserved for competition or should not be performed at all. We cannot simply blame our sparring partners or our fellow competitors. We must do the work and identify and educate ourselves on these areas that carry greater risk, what to look out for and what to avoid. Here's a simple example of a dangerous movement that I no longer use as a back take. This movement involves explosively pulling your opponent directly backwards from turtle to take their back. When you perform this movement, you risk catastrophic injury to both of your opponent's ankles. I used to do this back take a lot, especially in competition at blue belt, and I no longer do this after learning the risks. I learned about the dangers of this back take from Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu in his BJJ mat safety course. Another important safety principle is understanding that not everyone is safe to roll with. If you're nursing an injury or you have an issue, try to avoid that 20-year-old, 250-pound roided up ex-football player with a history of ripping on submissions. By taking ownership of your training, you can better protect yourself and your training partners on the mats without sacrificing your sparring intensity, training mentality, and intensity. Recently, I had a white belt join my gym who was still beginning their jiu-jitsu journey, but he knew enough to be dangerous. Some of the higher belts had observed this new guy going 110% maximum effort each and every roll, attempting to rip on submissions and acting like he was competing in the 80cc finals. When it came time for me to roll with this new guy, his intensity was at an absolute maximum. As an upper belt, I matched his intensity and secured a lot of submissions during our 6-minute roll. The white belt then found the next day that his muscles were really sore, his elbows were a bit jacked up trying to fight out of submissions until the bitter end, and his general spazzy white belt antics led to him being quite sore and having some potential joint issues. While I admire this new guy's training intensity, this is not a sustainable rolling practice. We can all learn something from this. You do not need to go 100% daily during every single roll, during every single session. I recommend having a couple of dedicated tough rolls per session or reserving 1 to 2 days per week for more challenging training with sparring partners who are ready for it and want to get after it with you. But doing it every session, especially to unsuspecting white belts, is not a good approach. Adjusting your jiu-jitsu game. Different jiu-jitsu games or styles of jiu-jitsu carry different long-term injury risks. For example, if your jiu-jitsu game is focused around leg-dominant passing with explosive knee cuts, then knee injuries, particularly torn ACL or LCLs, are a real possibility, or even just chronic degradation of your knees. Or maybe, like in the case of some guys that I train with at my gym, you've had a hip replacement and you cannot physically move your body or move into the shape and positions required by some leg-first dominated passing techniques. That's where I recommend adjusting your jiu-jitsu game to a more chest and head dominant pressure passing style. By modifying your game to avoid your personal physical weaknesses or weak areas, if you will, and promoting your strengths, you're staying safe on the mats, yet your jiu-jitsu is still effective. Off the mats. There are 3 elements to address in this area: strength and conditioning to armor against injury, mobility, the 3 pillars of recovery. Strength and conditioning to armor against injury. In an article titled "The Number One Reason to Lift Weights for BJJ," I mentioned that 68.8% of grapplers would take at least 1-2 week absence from training due to injury over 3 years of grappling. But the problem runs deeper than that. Jiu-jitsu can have a long-term impact when you don't put in the work off the mats, and it can slowly destroy your body. Implementing a strength and conditioning protocol is the number one way to reduce your risk of injury on and off the mats. The goal of your strength program should be to focus on the critical areas of jiu-jitsu movement patterns: the squat, press, hinge, pull, core, grip, carry, and rotation. Perform 2 to 4 sessions per week of about 45 to 90 minutes, including a comprehensive warm-up and a cooldown. Implement auto-regulation to modify the program's intensity to your recovery levels, accounting for your jiu-jitsu training that week. Focus on your weaknesses: tight hips, poor range of motion, weak glutes, terrible rotation, continually tearing your rib cartilage, sore lower back, and the list goes on. If you want to find the perfect program that focuses on your weaknesses, achieves your goals, and reduces your risk of injury, then I recommend taking my free program quiz. Link is in the description. Area 2, mobility. Yoga doesn't cut it. There's a big difference between flexibility and mobility. Flexibility is being able to move through a greater range of motion, whereas mobility is moving through a greater range of motion and being strong throughout that range. You don't need to become a yoga expert or stretch for hours at a time. Here's a practical way in priority order to get your mobility work in. 1. Implement a mobility-focused warm-up and cool-down before and after jiu-jitsu training. You can download a free jiu-jitsu specific mobility program. Link is in the description. 2. Do a 10 to 15 minute mobility stretching session in the morning or in the evening. I recommend the 30-day Jiu-Jitsu Mobility Challenge, which is freely available here on YouTube. And 3. If you really want to improve your mobility, I recommend following a mobility and strength focused program. I have one available on BJJ Strong Online called BJJ Move, which is a 12-week mobility focused strength program. The 3 pillars of recovery. I could dedicate an entire video podcast to the 3 pillars of recovery for BJJ. Oh wait, I already have. Check out the BJJ Strong podcast. Link is in the description to that episode. But here's a quick summary. The 3 pillars of recovery for BJJ are fundamental principles that you must address before attempting any other recovery tactics. These core principles are the primary drivers that move the needle on your recovery, and they are in order of priority: 1. Sleep. 2. Nutrition. And 3. Training intensity. Don't destroy your body just for your hobby. Put in the work both on and off the mats, because either way, you need to pay the jiu-jitsu fee. Whether it's in your personal time to implement the strategies outlined in this video, or in the potential short-term and long-term damage to your body. If you want to learn more about how to level up your performance on and off the mats and reduce your risk of injury, then check out BJJ Strong Online, the ultimate performance resource for grapplers.